They didn't save the system to protect you. They saved it to buy time, and now that time is running out. A once-in-a-lifetime financial reset is coming. But it won't look like 2008 replayed in HD with one massive crash day and headlines screaming panic. This one is quieter, slower, and for most people, it will feel worse. In this video, we're breaking down what this reset actually is, why it's more dangerous than 2008 for the average person, and how wealth is already being transferred without most people realizing it. By the end, you'll understand the real strategy governments use when debt gets too big to ever pay back, honestly, why cash might not be as safe as it feels, and what you can start doing now, so you're not the one getting reset while everything looks fine. The illusion of everything is fine. Right now, the system looks okay. Stocks aren't at zero. Your house probably says it's worth more than ever. Stores are open. People are still going to work. From the outside, it feels like the machine survived everything thrown at it. But zoom out for a second. Governments around the world are sitting on the largest debt piles in modern history. Not wartime levels, not once-in-a-century depression levels, peacetime levels. Debt, stacked on debt, built on years of cheap money, then supercharged by pandemic spending. And debt like that doesn't just disappear, it gets dealt with, one way or another. After 2008, central banks slammed interest rates to zero and printed money to stop the bleeding. That worked in the short term. Banks survived, markets bounced. But it also trained the system to rely on cheap money, like oxygen. Every problem since then was solved the same way. More debt, lower rates, more liquidity. And that pushed investors into anything that offered a return. Stocks, housing, private equity, crypto, art. Even bonds became expensive. That's how you get an everything bubble. When all assets go up at the same time, not because they're all amazing, but because money has nowhere else to go. Why this time is different from 2008. In 2008, the crisis was loud. Banks were failing, credit markets froze, housing collapsed. You could point to the problem and say, that's it, that's the fire. This time, the fire is spread everywhere. Back then, debt was mostly private. Bad mortgages, over-leveraged banks. Today, the debt problem lives at the government level. And governments don't get margin called the way banks do. When the pandemic hit, the response was massive. Trillions in stimulus, emergency programs, central banks buying everything in sight. It stopped a depression, but it came at a cost. A much higher baseline for inflation and a mountain of public debt that can't be paid down the old-fashioned way. Now, policymakers are boxed in. If they raise rates too much, they crush borrowers, spike unemployment, and risk blowing holes in government budgets. If they keep rates too low, inflation sticks around and eats away at purchasing power. That's why you hear a lot of calm language and technical phrases like normalization or soft landing. Behind the scenes, the real strategy is something older and much quieter: financial repression. That's when interest rates are kept below inflation for long periods of time. On paper, the debt gets paid back. In reality, it's paid back with cheaper money. You don't see a default notice. You just wake up poorer. The real reset: silent, slow, and relentless. When people hear economic reset, they imagine chaos. ATMs not working. Markets crashing 50% in a week. That can happen, but that's not the most likely outcome. The more likely version looks like this. Your bank balance doesn't collapse. Your investments don't go to zero. But every year, life costs more. Rent creeps up. Food costs more. Insurance jumps. Healthcare bills get heavier. Your income might rise, but it never quite keeps up. On paper, you're surviving. In real life, your lifestyle is shrinking. That's the reset. Cash and safe bonds don't explode. They just quietly lose buying power year after year. Inflation does the work without needing permission. At the same time, Governments look for money wherever they can find it. Taxes get tweaked, fees appear, benefits get adjusted, retirement ages move, programs become means-tested. None of it feels dramatic on its own, but together it changes the deal. Markets get wild, sharp drops, fast recoveries, big rallies driven by policy rumors. Volatility becomes normal. Instead of one brutal punch like 2008, you get a long grind where people who don't understand what's happening slowly fall behind while being told everything is under control. The problem most people don't see. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost everything in the system is still priced like the last 40 years will repeat forever. That period had falling interest rates, mostly low inflation, and rising asset prices. It rewarded savers in bonds and punished debtors early, then flipped. But that era may be over. After the pandemic, studies showed the shock to the global economy was faster and deeper than 2008. Governments used a huge amount of their fiscal ammo just to stop the bleeding. That means less room to respond next time without making inflation worse. So when the next slowdown hits, policymakers face a bad choice. Crush inflation hard and risk a deep recession, defaults, and unrest. Or tolerate inflation and let it quietly reduce the real value of debt. History shows they usually choose the quiet path, the one most people don't notice right away, the one that spreads the pain over years instead of weeks. And that pain lands hardest on people who think safe still means cash in the bank for long periods of time. How this hits you in real life. This reset doesn't hit everyone equally. It hits specific groups in predictable ways. Savers in cash and long-term bonds get punished slowly. Even if their statements look stable, inflation and taxes eat the real value of their money. Wage earners feel squeezed. If your pay doesn't rise as fast as prices, you're effectively working for less. This hurts lower-skilled and fixed-income workers the most. Households loaded with debt feel pressure from another angle. If rates stay higher than expected, mortgages, credit cards, and business loans turn from manageable to suffocating. That leads to forced selling at the worst possible times. Meanwhile, people who own productive or scarce assets often do better. Not perfectly, not without volatility, but better. Businesses with pricing power can raise prices. Real assets adjust over time. Skills that are hard to replace command higher pay. That's the wealth transfer everyone talks about. Not a conspiracy, just math. The challenge, you can't sit this one out. Here's what makes this reset more dangerous than 2008. You can't just hide in cash and wait it out. In 2008, sitting on cash worked. Assets were cheap, you could buy later and win big. In a world of long-term inflation and financial repression, sitting in cash for years is like standing on a melting ice block. You don't fall through right away, but you sink. Asset prices might swing, but in nominal terms, they tend to rise as money loses value. If you stay on the sidelines too long, you don't just lose money, you lose time. And time is what makes compounding work. The risk isn't doing nothing for a few months, it's doing nothing for years. Exploring the way out, principles that actually matter. There's no magic asset that saves everyone. Anyone promising that is selling hope, not strategy. But there are principles that have helped people survive periods like this before. First, understand the game. The system protects itself first. Stealth losses are preferred over obvious ones. Narratives will flip fast between inflation is dead and recession panic. Once you accept that, you can build a personal plan instead of reacting emotionally. Diversify across outcomes. Own things that can do okay in inflation and things that can survive a slowdown. No single bet covers every scenario. Avoid being forced to sell. Liquidity matters more than chasing perfect returns. If you can hold through volatility, you gain options when others don't. Focus on real returns. Always ask, after inflation and tax, does this actually grow my buying power over time? This isn't about going all in on gold, crypto, or any one idea. It's about letting go of the belief that safe automatically means cash forever. When the reset becomes obvious. Most people don't notice a reset until something cracks in public. A big bank wobbles. A government talks about restructuring. Inflation stays high while officials insist it's temporary. By the time that happens, the damage is already well underway. For regular people, the real wake-up moments are personal. Savings don't stretch like they used to. Taxes rise for stability. Rent or mortgage jumps, but pay doesn't. That's when the theory becomes real life. The reset isn't on the news anymore. It's in your budget. What you can start doing now. You can't control global debt or central banks, but you can reduce how exposed you are to their worst decisions. Reducing fragile debt is a powerful first move. High interest or floating rate debt turns uncertainty into stress. Building a real buffer matters. Cash still has a role, just not as your entire strategy. A buffer gives you time and flexibility. Owning productive assets matters more than ever. That can be businesses, investments, or skills that let you earn in a world where money is worth less. Think long-term, act short-term. Keep your big picture view, but stay flexible as conditions change. You don't have to love the system to play it well. A once-in-a-lifetime financial reset doesn't mean collapse. It means the rules are changing. High debt, sticky inflation, and limited policy options point toward a long period where wealth is quietly transferred through inflation instead of destroyed in a single crash. People who cling to old ideas of safety risk being drained slowly. People who understand the new game can use volatility, real assets, and adaptability to protect themselves and even come out stronger. If you have insights or questions on today's analysis, leave them in the comments. Your input helps shape the direction of this channel. And if you want to understand how to position yourself before this reset becomes obvious, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a critical update. See you next time.